Hi, I'm Nicole, founder of Silver Sea Apparel, and we make toxin-free activewear for women. So today we're going to chat about toxin chemicals in your clothing.
I love toxic chemicals. Give me all the toxic chemicals.
And you've probably heard it before, toxic chemicals are almost unavoidable, whether it's in the food we eat, what we wear, what we sleep in, even what we clean with. Windex. My big fat Greek wedding, he uses it for everything. Terrible idea. Even bug spray, full of chemicals. The negative effects of these chemicals in our food, though, is more commonly discussed. But many of us may overlook the harmful chemicals in our clothing and in the fashion industry in general. So when you're working out, your pores expand to release the sweat. That's how you cool off. But what kind of impact does that presence of these chemicals in our activewear have on your skin and on your overall health? So the 5 ways to avoid toxins in clothing is what we're going to walk through today. Simple guide. We're going to talk about just educating yourself on clothing materials that are most commonly used, which materials are usually associated with harmful toxins. We're going to learn the difference between sustainability and toxin-free. They're not interchangeable. One company may be sustainable but not toxin-free, and vice versa. We're going to understand which brands actually make toxin-free and sustainable activewear, regardless of what they may say they do. So kind of reading between the lines there and uncovering maybe some myths about popular brands. And then at the end, just ensuring you're actually choosing toxin-free activewear and what's best for you. Over the past few years, we've researched every available textile fiber in the world, and we found that there are currently only a handful, actually, of plant-based, toxin-free, and sustainable fibers that contain the properties needed to make great activewear. It's stretchy, it's moisture wicking, it's supportive, all your favorite things. And it's okay if you're not an expert on apparel. We weren't either. The guide we're chatting through is simple and it's designed just to provide an easy to understand roadmap for you to get where you're trying to go. We're here to help you and teach you the foundations necessary to avoid harmful chemicals and toxins in your clothing, because there was a time we weren't experts either. First step, just educating yourself on the materials that are used in most apparel. According to The Guardian, nearly 70% of clothing is made from synthetic fibers, and that would be polyester, nylon, rayon, elastane, acrylic. And the Textile Exchange asserts that over 50% of all fiber production is polyester based. So it's safe to say that the majority of clothing is made from synthetic fibers. And synthetic fibers like polyester and nylon are typically derived from fossil fuels. So aside from the harmful effects these chemicals have on our environment, you wouldn't want to be wearing something actually made from gasoline, would you? Probably not. So despite that obvious answer, most of us do this every day. So go check your wardrobe, pull out a few of your favorites, and check the label. Odds are you'll see either polyester or nylon or polyamide, which is another name for nylon, in many or all of the clothing that you have. Popular activewear brands like Lululemon and Athleta and Aloe Yoga and dozens more use synthetic materials like polyester and nylon, which have been found to contain dangerous levels of BPA, in addition to other harmful toxins like PFAs, flame retardants, lead, phthalates, azo dyes, and the process of manufacturing all of these materials is so bad for the environment. So some of the negative effects of these toxins, just so you know why they're actually bad for you: infertility, hormone disruption, anxiety or depression, an increased likelihood of breast cancer, increased blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, and cardiovascular disease. So while your first instinct may be to just rush your closet and throw away all your apparel made from synthetic fibers, Rome wasn't built in a day. Start with the items closest to your skin, like bras, underwear, shirts, pants, maybe even some of your favorites that you wear every day. And now that you know what materials to avoid, you're just one step closer to avoiding exposure to these harmful toxins. However, simply just avoiding apparel made from synthetic fibers doesn't necessarily guarantee it's toxin-free. So we're going to dive into this difference now. Another popular topic many brands are referencing are recycled materials. So if you're like us, you recycle whatever you can. You're repurposing or recycling materials, and that helps avoid them going into landfills and from overflowing and allowing material that's already been manufactured to be put to productive use so that there's a serious upside to using recycled materials whenever we can. You may have seen some brands promoting rPET, which is recycled polyester, recycled nylon, recycled cotton, and clothing made from other recycled materials. And while repurposing already existing materials is irrefutable, it's great for the environment and beneficial. But the fact remains that many of the issues that plague synthetic fibers like polyester remain even when you're using rPET and other recycled materials. If harmful toxins like BPA and PFAs have been found in synthetic fibers, and synthetic fibers are usually derived from fossil fuels, it stands to reason that the same risks associated with those synthetic fibers exist in their recycled versions as well. After all, recycling something doesn't change the composition of the core material. It just simply reuses it and puts it to a more productive use. I get it, it's complicated. Just add one more touch to this. Fibers like bamboo and modal are a bit more complicated, and both have their benefits. The majority of bamboo is made through a similar process to rayon, which is relatively chemical and water intensive. Ultimately, it comes down to whether their bamboo is natural bamboo, such as bamboo linen, which is processed in a similar way to fabric made from flax or hemp, and therefore sustainable versus conventional bamboo, which uses more chemicals and water in the processing part of the manufacturing. So while there are more sustainable versions of modal, such as tensile modal, manufactured by lensing, it's important to understand the difference between regular modal and lensing tensile modal, and which is more sustainable based on both chemical use and raw material sourcing. If you stick with tensile modal, or modal produced by an accompanying FSC, which is Forest Stewardship Council, or PEFC, the Program for the Endorsement of Forest Certification, then you'll ensure that the modal is processed in a sustainable manner and contains little to none of the harmful toxins that are found in many textile fibers. So look for those certifications, especially when it comes to modal. Some plant-based materials are tensile lyocell, organic cotton, organic hemp, and organic linen fabric. Small list. And all the ones I just listed are the most sustainable and toxin-free materials on the market today. Each of these materials contain elements that may be better suited for specific apparel, depending on the purpose. For instance, we chose tensile lyocell for our sports bras and tanks because it contains superior softness, it's wicked soft, breathability, stretchiness, it's moisture wicking, much more compared to organic cotton or hemp or organic linen. That's not to say that these other fibers aren't better suited for future activewear that we actually might roll up. So still expanding the options. But in summary, when it comes to the materials, if you're looking to minimize your potential exposure to harmful toxins, these are the ones that are your best options. The tensile lyocell, organic cotton, organic hemp, and organic linen. Next up on our roadmap is which materials are most commonly associated with these harmful toxins. So we actually kind of touched on this a little bit in the past few minutes, but just to reiterate, synthetic materials are most commonly associated with the presence of harmful toxins in activewear. Examples are polyester, nylon, acrylic, and rayon. However, it is important to understand that just because a piece of apparel is made from synthetic materials doesn't mean that's all you need to look out for. Plenty of clothing is made from cotton that's also grown with pesticides and can contain toxic chemicals. Jumping into sustainability and toxin-free. They're keywords, they're buzzwords, everyone's using them. So what's the difference? How do you distinguish that? If you were to Google sustainability, you would see the top result in the definition is that the ability to be maintained at a certain level, or the avoidance of the depletion of natural resources in order to maintain an ecological balance. So it makes complete sense that recycling and minimizing the harm to our environment during textile manufacturing would both fit into that definition of sustainability. However, you may not have noticed that there is no mention of toxin-free in the definition of sustainability. This is because while the two concepts are often thought as the same thing and interchangeable, that's not always the case. Just because something is sustainable does not mean it's toxin-free, and vice versa. That's why understanding the difference between the two is critical if your goal is to have both. So something can be sustainably made in the manufacturing process, but the actual material and fabric itself is not toxin-free. Next up is to understand which brands actually make toxin-free activewear. Many brands have sustainability pledges that make consumers feel good about supporting their particular brand and buying from them. But in order to cut through all that noise, you actually have to evaluate whether these brands are simply pandering to your desire, which is marketing, or actually help the planet and take action to create meaningful change. So any brand that presents a sustainability pledge but is selling apparel made from synthetic fibers like the polyester, the nylon that we talked about, is misleading you. For example, very popular brand Lululemon, they talk about sustainability and even release their annual sustainability report. But each year since releasing this report, their total emissions have increased. Now you'll find this deep down in this report, somewhere maybe around page 70 or 100, but still. Last year alone, Lululemon reported that their manufacturing-related emissions increased by over 20%. Furthermore, Lulu makes the vast majority of their clothing from synthetic materials like polyester and nylon. And although they like to trademark and use fancy words and names like New Lu or Luxtreme, the core of their fabric is still synthetic. So not great, right? Definitely not adhering to sustainability. And it doesn't stop there. Athleta brags about how 75% of the polyester used in their products is recycled. But polyester, even recycled polyester, is derived from fossil fuels. And what about the other 25%? Where is that coming from? Over 80% of activewear alone is made from synthetic fibers, which is not sustainable and has been found to contain harmful toxins like BPA, PFAs, formaldehyde, and many more. The bottom line is if a brand is using synthetic fibers, they're not living up to the sustainability pledge, and you're running the risk of exposing yourself to harmful toxins. Why would you want to wear anything other than the best, most comfortable, most sustainable and toxin-free materials on the market? So some helpful tips and questions to ask yourself as you're evaluating these brands and scrolling through their websites and finding your next cute activewear outfit. Does the brand list the materials, and are they transparent about it? What are they blending their primary fabrics with? So most activewear is made with polyester and nylon, blended with spandex. Spandex is also known as elastane. It's the same material. So just because activewear needs stretch, a certain amount of spandex is therefore needed and required. But are brands using bio-based spandex, which is out there on the market, recycled spandex, regular spandex? There's only one brand in the USA that we're currently aware of using bio-based spandex, us. It's also certified SGS, which guarantees that it's made with plant-based materials and is produced in a harmless, eco-friendly environment. Also, beware of the brands that make vague claims about their sustainability or eco-friendly practices, but they're still primarily using synthetic fibers. Some certifications to keep an eye out for: the OEKO Tech Standard 100 and GOTS certification. Blue Sign certified dyes and other reputable certifications ensures that the company's apparel has been tested for harmful toxins. And lastly, I feel like we've educated you, you know materials to look for, you know the toxins, you know why they're bad for you, you know how to read through a company's website and kind of pick out what you need to know if they're sustainable and toxin-free. So to ensure you're actually purchasing toxin-free activewear, one last thing. There's only one guaranteed way to ensure your activewear is free from harmful toxins, and that's for brands to actually test their finished products going through a third party before releasing to the market. But since you don't likely want to pay thousands of dollars to test every piece of apparel you own by a third party for harmful toxins, it's very helpful when the apparel companies do this themselves and they test for you. Unfortunately, again, there's only one brand that we're aware of that actually tests their products before releasing to the market. Again, Silver Sea Apparel. We're using tinsel lyocell and bio-based spandex, and we have got it tested by a third party just to ensure that there's no harmful toxins. However, there's also a number of other reputable certification bodies that textile manufacturers can apply and be approved for. So fashion certification organizations can be geared towards a specific area of concern. They could handle holistic, environmental certifications, organic material, animal rights, social responsibility, and recycling. And there's a few more too. These environmental certifications can also include testing for harmful toxins in fibers. Some of the more common ones, and you've probably seen before, are OKO Tech Standard 100, Cradle to Cradle, Blue Sign, Forest Stewardship Council. We've talked about these today. Another common one is GOTS and Organic Content Standard. So while it's not necessary for brands to carry all of these certifications, try to look for brands that use some form of certification on their materials, and that therefore would limit your exposure to harmful toxins. If you don't see any certifications, that's a red flag. That brand is clearly not prioritizing sustainability and toxin-free clothing. Ultimately, the best way to avoid harmful toxins in your clothing is to ensure that it's been tested for these dangerous chemicals by a third-party lab. But most of us would rather not spend thousands of dollars doing that. So choose brands that test the toxins for you and to make sure that they're not present. Thanks for listening in today. For toxin-free, choose Silver Sea.